It's the Security Weekly News, episode 280. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the week of 12 March 2023. We've got Casper, Flipper, Scrooge McDuck, NordVPN, Ring, Silicon Valley Bank, GoBruteforcer, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News.
How is your business staying one step ahead of cybercriminals? Secure your email applications, network, and data with Barracuda. Protect your business and go from zero to security in no time flat. Whether your team is working in one location or many, Barracuda has solutions that are easy to buy, deploy, and use. Learn how Barracuda can protect your business against ransomware, phishing, and other cyber attacks. Visit securityweekly.com/Barracuda. That's securityweekly.com/Barracuda. Barracuda, your journey secured. All right, I'm Doug White, and it's the Security Weekly News. It's actually Pi Day today, really, which is because it's 3/14, 3.14. Or if you're in the rest of the world, it's 14/3, which I don't know what that is. But at least there's pi. I mean, there is pi, right? I was told there would be pi today. I mean, math. It's a day of math jokes. All right. And the Brazilian National Telecommunications Agency is now seizing incoming Flipper Zero purchases. Yep. And I remember buying a Twister box on Temple Street in Hong Kong because they were illegal in the United States. A Twister box was used on early cell phones to extract the memory and from them for forensics. And they were illegal in the U.S. because they were considered to be, violation. I don't know. I mean, they decided they were illegal. But apparently, flippers are going to be illegal in Brazil. So if you haven't seen these things, there's a picture on the screen if you haven't seen one, but you can look them up. They're really cool. I mean, it's not as cool as it presents itself to be. Larry showed that there were a lot of limitations to it, I think, on an episode of Pulse Security Weekly, which I don't remember the number, but he was talking about it. But it is a tool which basically allows you to compromise a lot of things. Flippers can grab RFID signals, they can clone access keys, infrared, Bluetooth, you name it. You can replace your TV remote with it, your garage door opener. You can even compromise some of those infrared toilet thingies, and cause it to flush, or whatever. You can unlock cars. You can do other key fob type things with this. We used it to open some door locks that were like card swipe door locks, and it doesn't work on all those, but it's a lot like a lockpick, right? So it can easily be misconstrued as a criminal toolkit. And I know I used to drive around with stuff in my car that was illegal in the state of Rhode Island because it says burglary tools. And I actually told the state police about it because they said, if I get stopped, I don't want you guys putting me in jail because I had lockpicks and wrecking bars and all these other things that look like burglary tools. But I guess it's kind of like a tow truck driver having a Slim Jim hidden under the seat because those are illegal. That's so when you accidentally lock your keys in the car with it running in the ATM lane. And no, that wasn't me, but I was in the queue. I was the person swearing. But it can have legitimate purposes in pen testing and all sorts of other reasons that you might want to test these things. Testing stuff to see if it's vulnerable to flippers is a good idea because guess what? All the kids are going to have them. But multiple people in Brazil said that their Flipper Zeros, when they were being shipped to them, were being redirected to the Brazilian Telecommunications Agency, which is called Anatel. And they were shipped there due to, quote, a lack of certification with the radio frequency department. So if you want one in the U.S. or elsewhere in the world, you may want to get one soon before they get banned, or you'll have to fly to Hong Kong and buy one on Temple Street. Now, when I first saw that thing about Netflix saying they were going to lock down account sharing and that if you tried to stream from other locations, and it wasn't even that I was doing stuff that was in violation of the Netflix policy, I just was like thinking, you say I'm going to have to stream from a given location at home, and if I try to stream somewhere else, I'm not going to be able to because that would be a shared account. I was reading how they were planning on doing this, and I was like, so what if I'm in a hotel in New Orleans? How is that going to deem that that's a separate account and I have to re-register and pay another fee or what? And of course, they backed off that whole thing, but they were going to take all these actions. And I was really wondering how they would implement it. And I was, of course, wondering how I was going to get around it. And I had figured out a way that I could essentially tether a VPN from my phone through my house, so I could look like I was always at home. So according to Netflix, I've never left my house in the last 10 years because all my connections come from the same static IP. Well, NordVPN released their MeshNet product, which is a private tunnel, and they released it to everyone, even if you didn't subscribe to NordVPN. So this product first came out back in June of 2022, and it's used to create a private encryption tunnel between you and your own trusted devices. Now, I was using something else, and if Cisco wanted, no, it wasn't Cisco. Oh, well, let's not go there. It was, we'll call it Mr. Router. But basically, I was using another product I had set up at my home. We'll call it Mr. Router. And I could connect my phone to Mr. Router. And Mr. Router, then it looked like my phone was always at my house, even when my phone was in New Orleans. But basically, MeshNet lets you install a daemon on a piece of equipment, say an old Dell server in your home that's sitting in your basement, and then you can have your phone connect to that device over the interweb, and you use your local internet connection even though you're in, I don't know, Cuba. And so then, according to Netflix or anybody else, it looks like you're coming from your house. Now, I don't know if they were trying to get out in front of this kind of stuff or not, but it's pretty much how all modern VPN stuff works. So like OpenVPN does the exact same thing. It's not necessarily from your home, but it's from some endpoint, and it's not necessarily free. MeshNet can allow you to set this up to share with friends. So a lot of gamers have used this product because they want to actually allow people that are trusted to come into their gaming servers and whatnot. So suck it, Netflix. But I mean, we use stuff like this to watch Netflix in China before anyway, where it was blocked. I routed my daughter's phone through a VPN tunnel at my house, and it established that we were right where we're supposed to be all along, according to Netflix. And as we always say, if it's free, you're the product. But NordVPN insists that this is not the case. They said that MeshNet was a tiny portion of their infrastructure, and it would not make it an undue financial burden for them. I don't know. When it's free, you're the product. It's like that. If you don't know who the sucker at the table is in the first 5 minutes, you're the sucker. They say they're making it open source, so they're going to release it. So maybe, I don't know, but it's an interesting product. A cyber gang claimed that it is going to start releasing data supposedly stolen from the Ring company. The group is behind the ALPHV, I don't know how you pronounce it, ALPHV ransomware line. The entry on their site did not have any details, and in response to inquiries, Ring denied that they had been ransomware. Ring said, quote, "We currently have no indications that Ring has experienced a ransomware event," which sounded awful lawyerly to me. I'm sure it was. The ransomware in this case is called ALPHV or ALPH5. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but it was also called Black Cat and Noburus, and it is written in Rust. It was the first documented back in November of 2021, but the group itself has been around for a long time, and they've previously been associated with DarkSide Black Matter ransomware. The group is a ransomware as a service organization that typically exfiltrates data and uses that, sort of tier 2 type of ransomwaring to get you to pay the ransoms. And in July of last year, they had created a dedicated leak site that would allow them to pressure victims, and they even created a searchable database of information about various companies they had ransomware so that the employees and victims could search their compromised data. They have reportedly breached at least 100 organizations so far. I guess when they dump Ring videos, you're going to see that I often walk down to the paper to get the paper at the driveway in a robe. Maybe that was Tony Soprano. Do they even still print papers? I mean, I haven't seen anybody with a paper in a long time. Who knows? A Golang-based botnet is targeting web servers which run FTP, imagine that, MySQL and PHP-MyAdmin, imagine all of those, and Postgre. So this was a report from Palo Alto Networks. The botnet was named GoBruteforcer, and it was found hosted on a legitimate domain. It targets all sorts of different architectures, including x86 and ARM and on and on. And it was seen deploying an internet relay chatbot on a compromised server. The malware spreads by basically scanning the local network segments to identify target hosts. And it does that by just basic port scanning, was what it seemed like to me. And then it basically tries to compromise them using brute force. It's like really old school, right? I mean, but it works, whatever works. And so FTP I mean, the targets of this thing, FTP, MySQL, PHP, MyAdmin, and Postgre are all famous for being targeted by brute forcing type attacks. And I mean, I think all of us probably have at least at some point brute forced FTP, if nothing else. If some of those others probably too. And I mean, I can't believe FTPD still exists, but it does. People still install it. People still use it. They expose it to the public. You know, okay. But basically, this GoBruteforcer scans for ports like, watch this list now, 21, 80, 3306, 5432. It pings them. And yeah, I mean, like, okay, this is like the oldest school thing I've seen. But it basically tries brute forcing their credentials with a predefined list of credentials. It uses the GoFTP library, which is a Golang-based FTP daemon you can get on GitHub. And it uses that to actually migrate files. So the first thing it tries to do is install that Golang FTP daemon. The article did not say what the initial vector was that delivers the attack, so I'm presuming it's phishing. Well, Silicon Valley Bank was shut down on Friday by the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. Wow, now that's a name. But basically, in financial terms, they had done something bad. It basically ran out of money, you know, and in financial terms, this is called inadequate liquidity and insolvency, which sounds even worse somehow, but basically they ran out of money. So for me, it's called Tuesday. But the venture capital provider bank, which is well known in Silicon Valley for startup funding and all this kind of stuff, was turned over to the FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which was created after the bank runs in the 1920s. So way back in 1929, all these bank runs happened because people had all these margin calls because they were overextended on the stock market because they were making tons of money until that day, in which case all their options came due and they didn't have enough money, so they went to the bank and said, you know what, I need money to cover all my options. And that was fine for the first 50 people, but then the next 50 people came in and the next 50 after that, and they all wanted all their money withdrawn. And all of a sudden the bank said, we're closed. And then, of course, that panicked everyone. Everybody ran to their bank, started saying they wanted their money. So basically a bank run happens when depositors, that's us, get nervous that maybe old man McDuck hasn't been managing things properly and maybe lost all our money, or we just need our money for some reason. So we get out our pitchforks and torches and we go down there to get our money out. Well, when the bank can't deliver and they just slam the front door, then we burn the place to the ground and tar and feather old man McDuck. Now, in this case, Twitter caused it. So Twitter started saying, you better get your money out, because some venture capital people had said, you better get your money out. But the FDIC, after that was created, they began insuring your deposits in U.S. banks. So in sanctioned banks. So there's stuff that's not sanctioned either. So if you're buying those pictures of, bored apes and things, that's not sanctioned by the FDIC. So they're insured by the U.S. government. Here's the catch. Up to $250,000 per account. Now, for those of us trying to get back our $29.94 from our savings account, well, good news. You will get that back because the FDIC says you will. But if you had more than $250,000 in a single account, that could be bad. Note, you can open more than one account, folks, and you should if you have more than $250,000. And if you have more than $250,000, I mean, come on. Surely you can open another account, or you could just give me all the extra. Just keep it at $249,999, and you can give me the other 100 and so thousand. I'll take care of it for you, I promise. Just keep those cards and letters with the checks coming in. Mail them to Security Weekly, care of Doug White in Warwick, Rhode Island. You'll be fine. But in this case, SVB had big dollar accounts, because these were startups, right? So they're mostly millions and millions of dollars, and people are putting money in, taking money out. And according to the report, most of the deposits they held were in excess of $250,000. So if you had more than that, well, yikes. So the SVB had about $209 billion in assets and $174.4 billion in deposits. That's billion with a B, in deposits at the start of the year. So basically, what happened to them was higher interest rates, market instability, and lack of new capital flowing in put the bank in a bad spot. And so last week, they started trying to raise money. So they were doing various things, but it didn't work. In financial terms, it didn't work. And so basically, Bloomberg reported that several prominent venture capital firms were advising their clients to get the pitchforks and torches and go down to the bank and get their money from Scrooge McDuck before it was all gone. So, of course, that created a run on the bank. So people started withdrawing their money and transferring it elsewhere. Now, this had all happened a day after Silvergate Capital, which is another one, had said it was liquidating Silvergate Bank, and they were shutting down their crypto settlement service, the Silvergate Exchange Network. So all this adds up to the bank closing its doors and being seized by the FDIC. But wait. When bank runs start, it makes everybody nervous. Now, not just people with money in that bank, but everybody. I mean, and I bet when you're hearing this story, you're thinking right now, do I have more than $250,000 in one of my accounts? Well, maybe if you're me, you're not thinking that, but maybe you are. But you're also probably thinking, should I check on my bank? I've got all my money down there in Banco de Mexico in Rhode Island, their branch office. And, is that legitimate? And did the FDIC insure that, and so on? And you start getting that creepy feeling that maybe you'd be better off if you just converted that whole $29.94 in your savings account into a couple of cases of Mickey's Big Mouths or Buckfast if you're not from the U.S., and just getting ahead of the curve before the end comes. But before I could get all my cardboard signs made that said, we'll do anything for money, and I mean anything, the U.S. government made an announcement on Sunday. They said, after receiving a recommendation from the boards of the FDIC and the Federal Reserve and consulting with the president, Treasury Secretary Yellen approved actions enabling the FDIC to complete its resolution of Silicon Valley Bank, Santa Clara, California, in a manner that fully protects all depositors. Now, this, in my book, is called a bank bailout, which is where the taxpayers give money to large banking operations that have gone bankrupt because nobody wants this to turn into like the next Great Depression. But they went on to say depositors will have access to all of their money starting Monday, March 13th. No losses associated with the resolution of Silicon Valley Bank will be borne by the taxpayer. Now, this is called a lie. No, I mean, the government is funded by taxpayers, but they went on to say any losses to the deposit insurance fund to support the uninsured depositors will be recovered by a special assessment on banks as required by law. So maybe whatever that special assessment is will cover it. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of money, but hey, it's the U.S. government. Who knows? But at least for today, my $29.94 is safe and secure down at Banco de Mexico. U.S. President Biden has made numerous reassuring statements, which always reassures me, over the weekend, and all of them, in every single statement, he said, no losses borne by the taxpayers. Yeah, I mean, they said that a lot. So this is what they say when they want you to think everything is okay. And as a side note, the CEO of SVB sold 2,000 shares of stock on the 27th of February for $287.59 a share. Now, note that's only $58,000, so the CEO was probably just going to pay his bar tab from the night before or something. But today, those shares are trading at $100. Now, what? The shares are still trading at $100? I'm like, wait, this is why I didn't go into finance or politics. Well, I have found the limitations of ChatGPT. I have. I asked ChatGPT to write me an Irish limerick about our guest host, and here is what it said. There once was a lad from Ayr whose name was Aaran Leyland for sure. He loved to play music, and his fiddle was quite acoustic. His jigs and reels left us wanting more. Yeah, I think Bob Dylan doesn't really need to worry about AI taking his job at this point. But regardless of that, please welcome the amazing lad from Ayr, Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaron.
To be honest, I think that's the best limerick that was written about me today. So kudos to you. You find me here at the DTX conference in London. They give me a badge and they give me a glass of wine, but obviously, the professional that I am, I'll drink the glass of wine after the podcast. Okay, so from CSO Online today, it's given us that 6 reasons why your anti-phishing strategy isn't working. And as we all know, that's a really big problem where most of us are getting pwned. So obviously phishing is a successful scam that is definitely here to stay and probably only get more effective. Although if ChatGPT is better at phishing than it is at limericks, we're all kind of lost there. But we have over resilience and reliance even on technology and confusing sort of counterproductive training. But as we always say, and at this conference, I've heard it about 100 times today, they only have to get us once. We have to be protected all the time. So overlooking or misjudging IT security hygiene greatly increases the susceptibility to an attack. But even if you're following a pristine protocol, have offered training to the employees, repeatedly reminded staff to verify suspicious communications, and kept up the latest nefarious campaigns to fool the unwary, your organization's probably still vulnerable, and this is why. Obviously, phishing attacks are becoming more believable and sophisticated. If I could speak properly today, cyber criminals are continuously developing new tactics to trick people into giving up sensitive information, and as a result, phishing attacks are becoming more sophisticated. So a managing director of a global practice, Chrissy Safi, they're like many anti-phishing solutions use static rules to detect phishing attacks, which can be easily bypassed by attackers using more advanced techniques. Also, with the introduction, again, our favorite subject in a minute, ChatGPT, there will be a proliferation of phishing emails that have perfect grammar and no broken English, thus making it even more difficult to identify a phishing email sent by a cybercriminal. At the end of the day, the old Nigerian prince emails with bad grammar, bad spelling, and just bad words altogether. ChatGPT, with its many sort of vices, it's probably something that we can use ChatGPT for. ChatGPT, make me an email from the managing director saying, click on this link for your bonus. Things like that could actually work. But even without chatbots, attackers are getting more proficient. And if we look back to 2022, the breach of cloud communications company Twilio, there the attackers were able to match employee names and phone numbers using publicly available databases. The social engineering attack succeeded in fooling some employees into providing their credentials. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, actually. Apparently, we put all eggs in one technology basket, and we just try to technology our way out of things. That is not a good idea. We can deploy the right tools. We're going to work for those. We're going to have processes in place to combat phishing campaigns, but it hasn't been adequate in the past. Tools may flag and detect malicious emails, but they're not blocking them most of the time. So when we look at SIEM, Security Information and Event Management, SOAR, Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response Technologies, we really need specific playbooks to respond and take away some of the manual work by analysts and automate it. We're not taking in a holistic defense in-depth strategy. Some of the organizations with failed anti-phishing strategies, they're not taking on defense in depth. They're focusing on particular technologies, email anti-phishing, multi-factor authentication, data encryption, endpoint mobile security. There's just so many to talk about, along with then trying to mitigate cyber kill chain attacks, detecting compromised identities. But the problem with not implementing the holistic defense depth strategy and relying solely on the anti-phishing program is it only takes, as we say, it only takes one successful attack. So what we need is layered defense. We need good endpoint detection and response. I'm not trying to sell you EDR, but I think it's probably helpful to have that on every workstation. It's probably good to have a vulnerability management program enabling multi-factor authentication. If you're not by now enabling multi-factor authentication for every user, and especially admin accounts, you're probably doing something very wrong. But if we implement these precautions, implement multi-layers of defense, then we can best protect against a phishing attack. Are we training our employees to recognize phishing attempts? I think we're trying to. Today at this conference, I've had many chats about it. And at the end of the day, it's like, if we're just doing a click here, and if you clicked wrong, you will be chastised. Maybe it's better that we have some sort of program that you click on it this time, you're going to have to do a bit of computer-based training. You click on it a second time, you're going to have a bit more. You click on it a third time, you probably need a one-to-one talk with the CISO just to see what is actually going on. So that's the enforcement side, but what are the incentives? I think maybe it's probably a good idea that we look at, if you get this correct and you actually find out and you say, I think that's a phishing email, or even better, you find an actual real phishing email, maybe you should get a little gift card in your paycheck at the end of the month, just to say, good work, really good work. We really do rely too much on them phishing campaigns. And it's probably best that we need to accept. And I was talking to someone about this today, actually. I was like, when I worked for a Big Four consultancy, I was actually scared sometimes of doing things within email, because if me as a senior cyber consultant are clicking on phishing links that might be really good, then that's a problem. So at the end of the day, people are going to click on them. So we need that all-round layered defense, holistic approach, so that if somebody does click on it, we're picking it up somewhere else. Okay. What I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to try and do as best I can a live demonstration. So today I actually downloaded VirtualBox. I then Googled how to download an image for VirtualBox on Kali Linux. I then threw that in the VirtualBox. I Googled how to set up a phishing campaign, and we're just going to look really quickly at what I actually did there. So if we move away from my show notes and we go to this, what we'll see is that I actually downloaded on Kali Linux a application or a program called Social Fish. And just following through the steps today, I more or less apt-getted it. I downloaded it. I changed directories. I then moved on through. I made a new directory that the program was expecting to find stuff in. And we just changed quite a few directories. And then when we got to it, we typed in get clone HTTPS and the GitHub repository for Social Fish. And then it installed it. We checked with an LS to see it was still there. We did a change mod just to make sure that we had the correct access for it. All this happened so easily. It's like I downloaded VirtualBox. I put the Kali image on it. I opened Kali. We got the actual program. And then all I did then was run the program. And what we're going to look at is actually on Kali. Hopefully my screen hasn't gone this small. And there we go. And if we change directory into Social Fish, and what we have to be careful with here is an early on directory does not have a capital P, and then a later directory does have a capital P. So this one's actually looking for the capital P. And then if we ls and see what's in there, we can see it. Oh, go on. Do it quieter. Apparently my keyboard noises are loud. I'll do them quietly. Okay, so if we look into Social Fish, and we'll just pull this up. And what we'll do is we'll run the program. And then it just comes up and it has number 1 to 32. Some of it's Instagram, some of it's Facebook, some of it's Snapchat. And we just put in the number of the page we want the fish on. And then we drop in a way for it to talk to us. And it starts a PHP server. And then it starts another server for us to talk to. And then what will happen, or what should happen, is here we go. It says that send this link to a target, and it will also, in a minute, when it finally works itself out, give us a tiny URL link that we can just cut and paste into an email. I don't know if it's going to come up in time, but then we send that to someone and we chat GPT it, and we like, what you really need to do is you need to log into your GitHub. As soon as you log into your GitHub, you will find something interesting that we left there for you. And what will happen is this will set up a communications channel. And when somebody puts in their username and password, here we go here, it doesn't show up very well, but that's where the tiny link is, as you can see my cursor, and it says waiting on the victim to open the link. Literally, when they click on that link, it will give them a Facebook page. They put in username and password. It won't log them onto Facebook, but what it will do is it will tunnel that to us, and it will give us immediately their username and password. Obviously, a way to combat that is by having two-factor authentication. So enable two-factor authentication. So that's it from me here in London at the conference with a ropey demonstration. But yeah, literally we'll put in the show notes how to do all this, and you'll be able to do it yourself, but don't do anything illegal. Over to you in the studio, Doug.
Thank you, Aaron, from London at the conference. I unfortunately wasn't invited to come speak at that conference, but, you know, maybe next time. So who knows? And finally, you know, I can never resist these covert channel things whenever I see them. I love them. And so under no way am I criticizing this, because I think these are really cool things. This particular one is called Casper, and it was reported by the School of Cybersecurity at Korea University. Apparently, they demonstrated that you can leak data from an air-gapped computer to a nearby smartphone. And I think we saw some of this before from Ben Guerin, but they're getting it at 20 bits per second. So if you do the math, so my latest resume, I went in and looked. If you'd like to see it, to hire me, let me know. But it was about 46 kilobytes, and that would translate to about 306 minutes to extract. So it would be like waiting for a movie to buffer in 2005. But anyway, they used the internal speakers. Do you have an internal speaker? I don't, but they said that it was pretty common to take that little, you know, the 2-pin speaker and plug it in, which is what they were using. And they sent the data as a high-frequency signal that humans can't hear, but that can be heard by your phone. So the phone, now here's the catch. The phone could be up to 1.5 meters away. That's not very far. Now, I got to be honest, and they make no pretense about this being anything other than academic fun and academic research, but if I can get within 1.5 meters of your device with my smartphone, is this really necessary? I could just take the whole chassis and run off with it to my lair. Or after my wiser sidekick, Chronic, suggests that we just take the damned hard drive out. But that's no fun. So keep at it, lads. And that's the news. Thanks, Aaron, and I will see you on Friday.